Hello, my horror-loving dudes. I'm Killjoy Jake, and today we're discussing everything we know about Saw X. It's a little rom-com where Sandra Bullock is Ryan Reynolds' boss. Now let's get into it.
Well, sometimes that is better.
The tentative title for the 10th movie in the Saw franchise, Saw X, was announced all the way back in April of 2021. The announcement came an entire month before the release of the 9th installment, Spiral from the Book of Saw. Talking about this premature announcement, director Darren Lynn Bousman said, "Just because we made Spiral doesn't mean Saw ceases to exist. Just because Spiral is here, that doesn't mean there won't be a Saw 9. This is not the 9th film in the Saw franchise. There easily could be a Saw 9 that follows Jigsaw. I think they're waiting to see how Spiral goes and how audiences respond to determine what happens next." While many fans really did enjoy Spiral, including myself, some were unhappy that it broke off from the prime storyline in the Saw universe. As a huge fan of this franchise, I really enjoyed Spiral from like 2 years ago. I think it has its pitfalls. Still, it's not a perfect movie by any means. I saw the twist coming from a mile away, but the traps and characters are superb. I would even go so far as to say stupendous. Chris Rock, Max Minghella, Sam Jackson, and Marisol Nichols give some of the best performances this franchise has to offer here. I especially liked Zeke, but maybe that's just because I really like Chris Rock. He's such an underrated and versatile actor. It was really cool to see him show off his horror chops here. Writers Josh Goldberg and Peter Goldfinger, who I often just call Peter Finger because I think that's a funnier last name, use this offshoot as an opportunity to feature more nearly inescapable traps. I know that's typically something that's frowned upon in the Saw fandom. It's more fun when they can escape, there's more tension. Yeah, you're totally right. But I think that this was an opportunity to do that here because it's not a direct descendant of Jigsaw, and by that I don't mean like a son or anything. I mean like a Jigsaw disciple. Max Minghella's character is someone who didn't work directly under Jigsaw. He was just inspired by the way he killed people, but kind of threw his own ideology at it. Kind of like how Mark Hoffman does in some of those other sequels. While some may see that as a cop-out because they basically just took the same idea from past sequels and threw it at this movie, I think they kind of spin it in its own new way. They throw this social commentary angle at it that is very different from what we've seen in the past, so I appreciate it personally. Spiral's a fun movie, man. With all of that being said though, I am excited to get back to our prime storyline here about Jigsaw and all of his crazy accomplices, because there's still a lot of story that is yet to be told. Saw X is looking to focus the franchise on John Kramer once again. Writer Josh Stolberg even announced when he was writing the scripts that John Kramer fans will be very happy with this entry. Like I was saying earlier, I really enjoyed Spiral. It was a very fun offshoot, but I'm excited to get back to the prime storyline at hand here, which like hasn't technically been continued all that much since like the 7th installment. I know Jigsaw does kind of add some stuff, but also not really, you know? I want to see John Kramer back, man. I want to see Mark Hoffman. I want to see Amanda Young, and maybe even Lee Winnell trying to act. That was so mean, but I love Lee Winnell. Like honestly, he's written some of my favorite horror movies, including Saw. Speaking of those legacy characters, Tobin Bell is confirmed to be back as John Kramer for his 9th installment in this franchise. This is like having Robert Englund back as Freddy Krueger. It's just not the same without him. So I'm so glad Tobin has returned to this franchise and we're gonna get another sequel with him. Shawnee Smith will also be reprising her role of Amanda Young here, and she hasn't been in a film since the 6th installment. My personal favorite. Costas Mandylor, which I think I'm pronouncing that name right, is all but confirmed to be back as Mark Hoffman in this installment as well. This has me really excited because there's still a big ongoing story right now that is yet to be concluded involving this character. So I'm wondering what they do with him as well as Carrie Elwes's Dr. Gordon. Because don't forget, spoiler alert, I guess, but in Saw 7, we found out that he was yet another Jigsaw accomplice. I think that's what this movie could be about, but at the same time, we have no confirmation that Carrie's back on board the Saw train. I'm keeping my eyes out for the announcement though. I think it's coming. Fingers crossed. With everything I know about this film, the rumors going around, all of that good stuff, I really think that this movie is going to flash back to sometime between Saws 2 and 3, where we get to see a whole story take place between Amanda and John Kramer, something that happened before he died. Of course, that's what we always do in these flicks. But then I think it's going to flash forward to the present, and then we get a story with Hoffman, Dr. Gordon, all of those wonderful characters as well. Just a theory though, I haven't seen the movie yet. I will in a couple of months though. Saw X also features the return of Kevin Grutert, who edited the first 5 films and directed part 6 and the final chapter. Say what you want about the final chapter all day, but Kevin Grutert understands this franchise maybe better than anyone. I love what James Wan and Lee Winnell did in that original Saw movie. It's a masterpiece, it really is. is, but it doesn't really share the same vibe that some of the sequels have. It's more of just a crime thriller with the traps kind of being on the side. The traps in the sequels are kind of the big focal point, the big showcase of the movie. The thing I love about this franchise, though, is it never lost that crime drama angle to it. It still has that very much so present, it's just gotten a little campier as time has gone on. Personally, I think it's a really good mix, because like Saws 1 through 3 are pretty straightforward, pretty serious movies. After that, it starts to get a little more campy. But that's okay, franchises need to evolve. They can't just be throwing the same thing at you with every single entry, and that's what I respect so much about Saw. Every single entry is different from the last, while also keeping the DNA of the franchise alive and present. I pretty much love every Saw film. I mean, besides Jigsaw, that one's kind of a mess. Kevin is back directing this film and editing it, and he even posted on Twitter a little announcement that they have recently wrapped filming. After wrapping on Saw X, Kevin Grudert posted on Twitter and said, "Just wrapped shooting on Saw X. And though the challenges were huge, easy films are rarely worthwhile in the end, it was one of the most rewarding and epic experiences of my life. Cast and crew were firing on all cylinders. Though almost everyone involved was new to the Saw universe, and I got COVID in the final 2 weeks of production, and the movie was made entirely on edgy locations here in Mexico City, my fingers are trembling with anticipation as I look forward to starting to edit." He also notes, "I hope we can use the title Saw X, because this chapter really gets back to the roots of what makes Saw so special to me and everyone else who loves John Kramer's saga." In that same thread of tweets, he also kind of hints at maybe more people being in the cast that we don't know about yet. Cary Elwes? Come on, he's gotta be in this one. Tell us, Kevin!
Tell us.
Principal photography took place from October of 2022 to February of 2023 in Mexico City. Besides the first Saw film, which was shot in LA, every other Saw was filmed in Toronto, Canada. The change of locations is a huge departure for the franchise, and I wonder if it'll play into the overall narrative. Now, my buddy Marcus over at I Shot Him 6 Times did a video talking a little bit about how this kid in this photo talking to John Kramer could be Max Minghella character from Spiral. I think that's a really cool inclusion. It would make Spiral work with the overall narrative of Saw a little better, I think. I'm not against this idea at all. While it's totally not necessary for a new film, I think it's kind of a cool little inclusion. Check out his video if you have some time. The big question with this movie, in my opinion, though, is what from John Kramer's past is going to come back to once again fuel an entire Saw movie. I really hope we focus on Dr. Gordon as a Jigsaw accomplice a little more. This was a new idea introduced in the final chapter, which I'm not necessarily against. It's a pretty wild and out there idea, but like I was saying earlier, this series has gotten a little campy. Let's lean into that a little bit so we can keep making these movies. They're fun. And hey, if that's not really your jam, if campiness ain't really your shtick, you always have those first 3 movies. Spiral was pretty bleak. It had humor in it, sure, but it was a bleak movie, man. I'm sure we're not going all Army of Darkness here in Saw X either. Like, this is still going to be a scary movie at the end of the day with lots of blood, lots of gore, and lots of awful deaths. So what do you think we're going to get from Saw X here? Is this going to be yet another campy sequel, kind of like 4 through final chapter? I'd even throw Jigsaw into that list. That one's pretty campy. There are some big stretches in that movie. I can't say it enough. Or do you think we get something a little more rooted in the original 3 films, where it's like maybe a little more grounded, a little more serious, more crime drama-y, and just straightforward? And one last overdramatic question, and then I'll chill the heck out. Do you think that Max Minghella's killer character, William Shank, from Spiral from the Book of Saw, will he make an appearance in this upcoming film? Wow, that was way too many questions. But anyways, leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching this idiot in a polo talk to you about viciously murdering people in saw traps. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror content in the future. If you want to support this channel further, you can support me on Patreon by clicking on that link in the description below. Thank you all again for watching, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.